Hi, I'm Stephen James with Uva Imports, and I'm here this evening with Katie and Janine from Vinoteca.
Hi.
Vinoteca is right down the street from where I live, and Uva Imports is based here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're down here in Inman Park with Katie and Janine. We have teamed up with Staple House, who has turned their restaurant into a soup kitchen for people in the service industry, and we are donating a few dollars from this six-pack that we've put together from the Uva Imports portfolio. Katie and Janine, will you introduce the six-pack for us?
Yes. All right. So the first wine is the Zingara. This is a sparkling Ribolla Gialla from Friuli, Italy.
Number two is the Saint Martin, Domaine Saint Martin, Muscadet. This is from the region of Muscadet. Grape is Melon de Bourgogne in the Loire Valley of France.
Yes. And then we move into Marlborough, New Zealand with the Black Cottage Rosé of Pinot Noir.
And then we're doing double up on Pinot with the Le Tourette, Veneto, Italy, Pinot Noir.
All right. And then from Le Morete, this is the Bardolino Classico. Yes.
And then lastly, from a winery called Vicus. This is a Aglianico that is from Ipernia, which is in Campania, Italy.
All right. So we have one French wine, one New Zealand wine, and then the rest from Italy. Uva Imports. We've branched outside of Italy, but Italy is definitely our passion. So a lot of our portfolio comes from this wonderful country. Hopefully people are enjoying this six-pack. There's a lot of fun red wines in there for summer, for springtime, for cooler weather, drinking on the patio. Go down to Vinoteca and try these wines, and stay tuned for some videos on the tastings of those wines from the six-pack. Right now we're going to taste the Zingara Ribolla Gialla sparkling wine from Friuli. Zingara means wanderer or gypsy in Italian. And this is a project that my boss, Adam Richard, who owns Uva Imports, started as inspiration to how he got into this importing business, which is wandering around Italy. This is coming from the McCann family, from a single estate. It's certified sustainable, and it is very dry style, very clean. What are you guys tasting in this sparkling wine?
A lot of citrus notes on the nose for sure. And this grape too is unusual in that it's not grown a lot of places and really not done for sparkling wine, right?
It is not. It is becoming more known for sparkling wine, that's for sure, because the wine is the grape is naturally high in acidity. It has a thick skin too, so you also see this grape often used for the amber wines, the orange wines that are becoming so popular. But it gives you a wonderful texture, that thicker skin. The minerality here, the limestone in the soil is going to give you that clean, fresh minerality. And it's also a very low dosage. So the sugar in the wine is much lower than your typical, even brut style. It's drier than a typical brut. It's only 4 grams of residual sugar, which really accentuates the citrus.
Yeah, this wine is very citrusy. It has a ton of orange blossom to it. And the minerality is very apparent. It's really clean, crisp, fresh.
The bubbles are fine. They're creamy. This has a lot of normalcy, especially to a grape that is not normal to a lot of people, which is very refreshing.
I love you mentioned the creaminess of the bubbles. There's a frothiness to this.
Frothy is a good way to say it.
Of sparkling wine that makes it, to me, really easy to drink. Some bubbles can be really assertive on your palate and in your nasal passage. This is a little bit softer bubbles, but still very fine and in tune. What do you want to eat with this?
It's exactly, I was just about to say, this wine actually is very food friendly and kind of makes you want to eat food with it. I think oysters would be about the best thing in the entire world with this wine. Maybe some soft cheeses. I think it also could hold up to a light roasted chicken, maybe something a little bit herbaceous even.
The prosciutto and a soft cheese, like you said, like a fresh mozzarella, a little melon by the pool. Perfect. I don't even know if it's open yet, but You know, this Ribolla Gialla is becoming very popular in Japan for its
Oh,
pairing with raw fish for crudo. So you picking up on the oyster component. Uh, Not sure how much crudo people are eating these days without going to the fancy restaurants. But the texture, it really has a bit of this umami character that goes well
for
with
sure. For sure.
I hope somebody gets to discover this new grape, this new style of wine, and it finds a new home.
It will definitely.
The next wine we have this evening is one of my favorite regions in the world. My first love of white wine came here from the Muscadet region in the Loire Valley in France. We have the Saint Martin Muscadet from the Domaines Vinet. Domaines Vinet is a partnership between Gerard and Laurence Vinet, and they decided to keep their family estate separate. So this is coming from Laurence's family's estate. It's a 9-hectare estate in Chateau Thibault. She is the winemaker, and she is the first of 3 female winemakers we have in the 6-pack this evening. You guys want to tell me a little bit about what you're getting here on the nose of this wine?
I will also say that Muscadet is probably one of my first white wine loves too.
Awesome.
It's such a food friendly.
The first thing you notice is the lees contact, which Muscadet is known for. So that yeasty kind of ginger skin, unbaked bread dough feel. Tons of citrus.
Tons of citrus.
You know, and this is a 2016, so it's a few years in. It's now on its 4th year since harvest. It's still, how does it feel? It still feel very fresh and fruit forward?
Super fresh. Beautiful mouthfeel too.
Lovely.
It's round, but still maintains a nice level of acidity.
Mm-hmm.
There is a really interesting, again, I say orange again. There's like an orangey, almost circus
Or
peanut.
Oh,
No,
circus
like-
peanut.
Yeah, circus peanut. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
I love that. So the lees contact, Janine, that you mentioned earlier is one of the reasons why these wines age so well. I've been experimenting with Muscadet, and I've bought library vintages from different estates dating back to the 90s.
Wow.
The Vinet family makes a higher end Muscadet, and the current vintage available is 2014. These white wines age very well. They're on this metamorphic hard rock soils, which also make the roots go down very deep. It really adds some maturity and depth and complexity in the grapevines. But the thing that was why this wine first captivated me is because it's affordable wine and it's complex, it's got depth, and it was something that grabbed my attention at a price point when I first started buying wine that I could afford. And it also goes so well with so many different foods. You mentioned oysters earlier with the Zingara, but this is also a classic seafood wine because the Nantes, where this area is, it's where the Loire Valley hits the Atlantic Ocean, and it's 9 miles from the ocean itself. So a lot of seafood here. These wines typically go great with all kinds of different seafood.
And the wine itself, almost the minerality to it, and the texture almost has that oyster quality to it, that brininess that comes from the liquor from the oyster. It has kind of that weight too. And I like this wine too when people come in and say, I want something that's going to go well with spicy foods, going to go with Asian foods. But I also find that when you're at a restaurant and you're with people that you might not know, this is one of those wines that you can introduce to people and blow their socks off, because it does go well with so much stuff, especially as a starter wine, just to start the meal off.
On our website, I recommend pairing this with dim sum.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Even pork belly would have been good.
For people who haven't tried Muscadet, hopefully this is an introduction to a new love. Cheers.
Cheers. I drank it all.
Next up, we have, we're going to do 3 wines back to back to back. These are perfect springtime wines. We have the Pinot Noir Rosé from Black Cottage. Winemaker Sana Sander, she's from Stellenbosch, South Africa. The owner, David Clouston, worked with several different wineries. Most notable to me was Adelsheim in Willamette, was his first winery. He also worked for a famous French winemaker in the south of France. He worked in both Provence and Corsica making rosés. So they bring a lot of international approaches to making a very delicate rosé style of wine from New Zealand. To me, what's really poignant about this style of rosé is you get this sort of salty watermelon rind character. So to me, that's what really shines out in this wine. So it makes for just a perfect afternoon drinking in the sun wine. Who doesn't love watermelon and sunshine? Next, we have La Tourette. This is cool climate, northern Veneto Pinot Noir. And this Pinot Noir was planted here by the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, this Germanic influence, hundreds of years ago. And so what you get is a much more Germanic style. Spätburgunder is what they call it in Germany. A little more German style than, say, French style. The quality of the fruit. What strikes you about the fruit character of this wine first and foremost?
Has a lot of like brightness to the wine for sure.
Right. More on the darker red fruited side. Maybe like a black raspberry or a black cherry.
Was the first thing I was thinking too.
That is
even with the blackberry.
Yeah.
That's always the telltale sign for me between the sort of the French Pinot Noir and German Pinot Noir is the German wines, Germanic Pinot Noir. Even though this is Italy, this is northern Italy. A lot of Germanic influence in this area, and also the character of the Pinot drinks more like black cherry as opposed to red cherry. A little bit more earthy, peppery components.
It has a good amount of earthiness and pepperiness to the wine. It really has, for sure, like white pepper and black pepper, and it's deep too. The way that this is much more like, especially looking at the wine. This has a lot more depth to it than I was expecting.
Yeah, like the fruit fell from the trees and it kind of got mixed in with the earth. It's got lovely acidity. Always great with food. It's very manageable on the palate. Not saying that Pinot Noir usually gives you a lot of tannin, but this one in this case is very bright and easy to understand.
So I'm going to do a compare and contrast because right now I have in my glass the Le Morette Bardolino Classico, which is a field blend of Corvina, Rondinella, and Molinara, the same grapes that make Amarone and Ripasso in the Valpolicella. Here on the lake in Garda, which is Italy's largest lake, you have a lot of seafood, so you have a predisposition, a historic way of making red wines in a very delicate style. You can really see how light-bodied this blend is from Bardolino, and it really does sit in that wheelhouse of Pinot Noir lovers. And why we're going to do this compare and contrast. For me, the difference here is this is more tart red fruits, so some cranberry notes, but you still get some of this black pepper component, lots of tart cherry, and it has a little bit, as it opens up, an orange zest character. But these two wines are being grown and harvested pretty close by. They're not far away. So even though the soils are going to be different, you're going to get some similarities just in the tonality of the wine because they're both coming from the pre-Alps and just below the Alpine range in northern Italy. What are we eating with these wines?
I was actually just thinking about that. This wine to me would go really good with a spicier, like a sausage that had some great, like comparably peppery notes to the wine for sure. With the Germanic thing makes me think of something like Spätzle or something that has like some like that. I don't know. I can just picture that like crunchy ness to the wine that kind of would be really nice with it. You know what else would be good too? Like cacio e pepe, like just some simple pasta with that pepper and the cheese and a lot of butter. It would hold up really nicely too, because the body on the wine is medium light, so it could go a lot of different ways with food, I think.
The cacio e pepe spaghetti carbonara would be fun.
Yeah.
With my wine tonight, actually, I had sausage. We had some sausage, spaghetti squash, zucchini,
Nice.
and the sausage had apple in the sausage. And
Yeah.
but I love this wine with the chicken and or turkey, a turkey sandwich. But with the cranberry notes, I can't help but think of like Thanksgiving dinner. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving to have that same sort of feel. A casserole with chicken, especially the dark meat and the leg. But these are both perfect. Summertime reds, definitely worth chilling down 30 minutes in the refrigerator, or put it in the refrigerator and take it out 45 minutes before you need it for dinner. Mm-hmm. All right, so the next wine we have is the Vicus Aglianico. Aglianico, you don't pronounce the G, not really, in Italian. It's more of a Y sound. But the winery is Cavaliere Pepe. They're high up in the mountains in Campania, just inland from Amalfi Coast and Naples. This is inland also from Mount Vesuvius, the volcano that erupted and killed everyone in Pompeii in 79 AD. It's these volcanic hillsides that create some really fascinating wines from indigenous grapes, this being one of those. I love the texture of these wines. They call it the Barolo of the South in Tarazi in the DOCG, but it's the most noble red grape of southern Italy. What are you guys getting there on the nose?
I just wanted to point out that I've only touched my glass and I haven't moved it. And the aroma that's coming from what she just poured feels like I'm outside on like a big boulder of volcanic rock. Like it's crazy. It's just kind of just here.
It's very aromatic.
It's very aromatic, but like
it's
an
eucalyptus,
earthy
earth, minty, like a mentholated note to it.
Wow. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
This is what we call a complex wine.
Yes, this is for me the star of the show. It's great with some wild game. In Italy, you get wild
game.
Yeah, or a pork pasta agnolotti. But this wine is so complex. It's so much depth, but it still retains its beautiful fruit character. And part of that's because it's aged for 2 years in large concrete. To allow the wine to mature, but not to take away from the fruit. And this is 2015. This is the youngest red wine that they make, the current vintage.
Wow. There's a lot of character to this wine. Usually I go to the south of Italy when someone wants a little bit more depth and a body with their wines. And this definitely delivers on all cylinders.
So this is Milena Pepe. She studied wine in France, worked with Michel Chapoutier and Domaine Genasse in the Rhone Valley. Okay. Definitely took some influence from that fruit-driven style in the Châteauneuf-du-Pape area. And she came back in 2005 to take over her father's estate. So she's running everything from in the vineyards. She's converted the vineyards. It's in the process of organic certification. But they've been farming organically for some time now, but they're just now getting into that process of certification. But she's totally revolutionized and changed the way the Pepe family grow grapes and make wine.
We opened this wine about an hour ago as well. And when I first popped the cork on it, you had a lot of nose to it. It's interesting that it still has really held so much aromatics to the wine.
This is definitely one that is worth a decant. Right out of the bottle, it might feel a little tight, a little bit like intense because of that high elevation volcanic soil. But yeah, it's opening it up an hour early, letting it breathe is perfect. Decanting, if you're in a little more of a hurry. I tell people you can just decant with a mason jar. It doesn't have to be a fancy decanter. And the more time it sees air, the easier, more voluptuous it's going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Any other food recommendations for this wine? What
I
inspired?
was just thinking lamb and roasted, anything braised also, but I think you could do short ribs. Yeah, you could do leeks, like braised leeks with this too, like something heartier.
I just did a short rib. We had fava beans and asparagus to go with it. So like, oh man, this one's good.
Yeah, it is good.
This one is
It's really good. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys like it. Hopefully everyone else will too.
They will.
They will.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
See you next time.